Hi, you're with India Post Live, India's first online news conversation web TV. I'm Ishan Russell, and India Post Live is, of course, a forum for you to come in and participate. So use social media to get in touch with us. Hashtag India Post Live to your tweets, or use our Twitter handle at India Post Live, or you can use Facebook. We have a Facebook page called India Post Live. You can go ahead, like it, post a comment over there, or a picture, or any other thing. Or you can go to IndiaPostLive.com. That's the name of this website where you can watch this video live right now in case you're watching it later. There are so many other videos on various topics for you to check out, so go ahead, check those out. And also there's a wall for you to comment over there, so let us know what you think about it, and in case you want to participate in a show, well, let us know, or we'll ensure that you can come in via Skype or Google Hangout. So it's up to you to choose how to participate. The issue that we're talking about today is very, very sad. I mean, it's a sad day in India, I think, when a 6-year-old inside a school is sexually assaulted. Parents allege it was a teacher, the school says it wasn't, but what really is the truth, and why have we come to this? Why do we have people in society who who can view a 6-year-old as a sexual object? It's a very worrying trend, and we'll be discussing that with Mr. K.S. Subramaniam. He's the former Director General of Police and has written many seminal works on police reforms as well. Thank you very much for coming in, sir. Also, we have with us Diksha Manwani. She's the Director of Eduveda Preschool and handles a lot of children. And Diksha, today it's really, really sad. A 6-year-old inside her own school. What's safe now?
Unbelievable. When I first heard about it, it is actually unbelievable. And as a school, you're forced to think again, what more can I do? So as a school, we take that responsibility of keeping children safe, and we have very, very young children coming to us. So we are a preschool. So all our children are actually below the age of 6. So apart from running extensive background checks in hiring our staff, we also ensure that we are technologically enabled and that we have CCTV camera surveillance at key vantage points and in the classrooms everywhere. Even a dollhouse, a small dollhouse where children are playing can be a place conspicuously somewhere something could happen. So even those are places where we try to have our surveillance, have a video phone at the gate, have a trained guard. And also whenever we also have visiting faculty, yoga teachers who are males in the school. Otherwise we have female staff mostly, but we have visiting faculty, and we make sure that a responsible person from the school is always there supervising the class. And that's where we limit the exposure that children have to such staff. So I think again and again we go over our processes and the way we do things just to ensure that something like this cannot even remotely come close to our school. And I think that's what all schools need to do. The management needs to sit down with the administration. They need to put these security checks in place and make sure that the processes are implemented seamlessly and such things don't happen. Also, sorry,
sure.
So also, CSA, child sexual abuse, is a subject that we've taken up because it could not be just somebody in the school. It's also relatives. It's so rampant. Like you said, I don't know what has happened to society. The moral metal, the moral fiber is probably going down. We're losing out somewhere in terms of value. Or is it loneliness? It's a very philosophical question that you just put up. So it's also relatives, and it's very, very rampant. The people you would least expect to do something like that actually do that. So as a school, we've also made an effort to have CSA workshops on child sexual abuse, where teachers and parents both are trained that this is a reality, that we need to come out of our inhibitions of broaching this subject, because it's a reality and it needs to be discussed. And the more it is discussed and the more comfortable we become talking about it to our children and empowering them maybe from the age of 3. And I don't know if this is the correct forum, but this is how we educate our children, that there are certain parts which are private, and there is certain behavior which is very, very inappropriate. And parents and children should not feel inhibited talking about these things. It's fine to discuss it very openly. So the moment we open up to our parents, children talk about these things to us. Otherwise, they hide these things. Our society puts a, we just
they think
roll it under the carpet.
A child can't obviously comprehend what is being done to the child. I want to get a guest on Google Hangout as well. Reshmi Bhaskaran, the head of NEG FIRE is with us. Also, Divya Gautam, she's an IISA activist. She joins us live. But Reshmi, what would your take be? it is indeed a sad, sad day in India, but what is even more worrying is such instances becoming more and more rampant? And even in, I mean, you would say that somebody is not educated. I mean, the kind of arguments that are often given, but this is happening in high society, in schools where the richest of the rich send their children to.
See, I agree with that. This is a really sad news to hear. And other things that we hear, see, this kind of news every day. It's not only today, and it is not only in Bangalore and every part of the country. And we hear this kind of news and molestation to rape to within inside school and inside the family, inside the house. And no child is safe. Even I had witnessed the children, who's gone through the rape attempt at the age of 2. Can you believe that a child, this is somebody is not molestating, trying to rape at the age of 2. So there is some problem. It is not only the school institution or even I heard the Shivani, what she said about the school. Many schools are taking care about it. But last year when I had to go through certain cases, which is actually related to the child sex abuse and at the age of 5 to 6 years, and some 3 4 cases were really really shocking. That one child was molested by the father for near 1.5 years, and another one was undergoing the same scenario in the school for near 3 months. And then when I tried to bring up, and when the organization where I was working, and I individually also try to take it up to the government level. It's that is not only to take action or file a case or thing, but to look into the issue and how we as a society and responsive society to react to this and to stop this. We have a lot of systems we can bring it, but system is only one to prevent it. But before to stop it or take action against it. But before that, how and why people are getting into this kind of mindset. They can't segregate a child, and or they can't stop their emotions. Everybody has this, but the thing is that how they get into this kind of criminal kind of attempt, we have to think about it, and we have to take a lot of steps towards that. Otherwise, no even a single child is anywhere. It's not only girls, it's boys also. Because recently another report which I was reading, the molestation and abuses that boys are undergoing is much more than girls in certain scenarios. So, I'm a mother, and I'm also very much worried. I can't even send my child to somewhere because at this, my daughter's age, I used to go and do a lot of things outside. I used to travel alone. But now I can't think about that because this is something worrisome. As she was mentioning, there is something happened to the society. So that is, it's related to the a lot of opening up, media and though we are talking about sex, we are trying to talk about it, but still it is an inhibition. It is a preventive kind of thing. We can't do that. And another thing, see, I don't know. At the age of 3, we start sex education, or telling them, okay, you can tell what is a bad touch and good touch, but beyond that, if you are getting into that, I don't know. I'm slightly confused about these kind of things. Though I work with the children, I go to schools, but I'm really confused about it, how to handle it, because this is beyond somebody can definitely,
All right, so we as a country and society as a whole, I think, needs to come in and together tackle the issue. That's why we're talking about it. In fact, if you have a view, if you want to participate, go ahead, use social media, use Twitter, Facebook, or send us a request and we'll get your view heard. But Mr. Subramaniam, the reason why I called you today was to understand the psychology of mind. I mean, you've dealt with various kinds of criminals, from rapists to murderers to terrorists. But I mean, how does a person view a child as a sex object? I can't fathom that.
Look, it's not just for me as a police officer. What I see is that what has happened in Bangalore on July 2 is a serious violation of the rights of the child. And there is a law in India which says Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. It is 2012 Act. But there is, at the same time, there is a United Nations Convention on the rights of the child. It was convention is passed in 1992. India has still not ratified the convention. There is a lack of seriousness on the part of institutions, official institutions, and also professional institutions like schools and so on, about protecting the rights of the child and asserting the rights of the child and empowering the children. And my friend here was mentioning the steps taken by her to empower children. But what we need to do is spread awareness. Awareness building is in our country is pathetically low. I have been to children's schools in northeast India. I have just come back from a visit to a new Bongaigaon district, and I had to visit some schools. It is just pathetic to see. She is coming from a very good school, and Bangalore school is an international school. It's a very, very well equipped school, and children are being taken. Even very good exercises and other things are done. But if you visit a school in a northeastern state and a small children sitting in the school, you will feel like crying. Situation is so pathetic. Hundreds of children sitting on the floor and looking for so-called education, which they are not getting. Where is the empowerment there?
But as far as deterrence is concerned, how does one ensure deterrence in terms of, do we need more awareness about the fact that this is such a heinous crime that, are there enough laws to make deterrence
You see, bro, the problem in India is we are very insensitive. We are an insensitive and self-righteous nation. We think that we don't have to learn anything from any international body. That is why we haven't ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Why? We have a United Nations Children Emergency Fund in India, another similar fund in Pakistan, and a friend of mine I also worked in the UNICEF for about a year. A friend of mine, a senior officer from the UNICEF in New York, he visited India, and I had to go with him for a conference to Nepal, where we were discussing a rights-based approach to children's activities. And he told me, very shockingly, he told me that the UNICEF office in India is the most corrupt, followed by Pakistan. These two countries are competing with each other in corruption, in enforcing the rights of the children. So what do you expect in this country? You see, I am really ashamed to say that we claim to be a democracy, we claim to be a great country with a tremendous civilization, 5,000 years old civilization. What are the rights of the children today? Where is the debate on the subject? I believe there are some commissions have been set up, National Commission on the Protection of the Rights of the Child. But the idea is to take a view on rights, children possessing rights. You are not just protecting children, but you are trying to enforce their right to life, a right to a safe environment, right to education, and so many different rights are there for children. Where are they being enforced? I am sorry to say that our record is very bad. Right. And of course the police, naturally, we have a very, very colonial police, I am sorry to say.
So I think, if I may add, I think the punishment should be very, very stringent. Absolutely. I think that will act as a very strong deterrent. We can take all the precautions at an individual level that we can. We can be as responsible and as helpful and as sensitive as we can.
Very
but I think
but
also
the
law needs to be very, very strong.
In this case, the incident took place on the 2nd of July. Right. Until the 17th, we are debating the issue only on the 17th. And what happened in all these days?
Apparently the case was filed on the 14th or something like that. In fact, we have a voice coming in from Bangalore.
Okay, that's very important.
Subramani is the coordinator for a child helpline, APSA. Thanks, Subramani, for coming in. But a sad day indeed for Bangalore, and you run a child helpline. And what have we come to? Bangalore, which is expected to be the urban center of India, where you have IT professionals and things like that. And this is now the image that one associates with that city.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Subramani. Can you hear me?
I can't understand, sir. What you are telling? Hello.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was asking you, you run a child helpline. It's indeed a sad day for Bangalore. You run the APSA helpline. Talk to us. How common is this? We might be talking about one incident, but how common is this over there?
Sir, actually, Childline in Bangalore, there is two child lines. One is Basco, another one is APSA. We are receiving calls throughout Karnataka. Okay. And CRT, Standard Trust, is a nodal agency of Childline. They are coordinating these two child lines. See, actually, we got a call on 14th morning at 10:30. My child's parents, Tanmay Ghosh, those parents called us like this happened in in the school. my child was like affected like this. They told about this all the stories. Immediately we went the spot and discussed with the parents, and after that we went to police station. See, that police station come under our zone,
Okay.
Childline APSA zone. Okay, we went and we gave a complaint in the police station. Immediately police took a statement of child and parents, and after that we discussed with the child and parents the full story of how the case happened. Like this one, we discussed with parents and child. The child told all the stories how this was happened. Like this, child told us, and immediately police inspector sent police constables to the school, and they brought that two accused. That actually the name I forgot. The two
You cannot
adults,
forget the name, but we
there are
understand.
PT teachers and gymnastic teachers. One is a main teacher and another one is a assistant of the teacher. We took them and we took a statement from that accused fellow. And after that, this child statement is linking the story. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, after that full story, our counselor, Ms. Radha, took all the statements from child and parents. After that, immediately police arrested these two accused fellows. I forgot their name. Actually, I have a...
No, let the names be. Let the names be. We won't take names over here of anybody. I mean, as long as an accused is accused. But still, go ahead. So that was the procedure. That was what happened with this particular case. But what is even more disconcerting is this is not a case in isolation. And you run a child helpline. How often do incidences of child sex abuse come up in your city?
Sir, actually, a little loudly speak, sir, please.
Yes, I was asking how often do such incidents come to the child helpline? How busy is the child helpline? That will really give us a sense of the nature of the crime, or of how rampant it is in society.
Sir, actually, parents only called us. Parents on 14th, their parents...
No, I'm Subramani, I'm not talking about this particular case. I'm just trying to get a sense from you as to how many calls do you receive a day talking about such incidents?
On 14th only we got a call, sir. Immediately we went.
Okay, fair enough. Right, so the APSA certainly has done... Yeah, so the APSA certainly has done a lot in this regard, and we greatly appreciate. And there is a child helpline in case you're in Bangalore. There is a child helpline of the APSA which you can call in case you faced any such kind of problems. Go ahead, talk about it. That is the first and foremost thing that one should do. But coming to you, Diksha, I mean, you just heard the entire sequence of events from a first-hand account, and the bigger worry for me is that it's getting rampant. And you mentioned the fact that, all right, school, and we say, okay, the school is to blame, but what about homes? And how does one deal with somebody who's 6 years old, who doesn't even understand what a good touch or bad touch is?
It's a perversion, and it's there in the society. So let's face it, that we need to fight it. You know, the more we think about it, why it's come, I think that's a different debate altogether about the perversion. But yes, it's rampant. It's there. You know, these abusers. The perversion, the child's
mental perversion of
mental
a person,
perversion of a person, right? So you have abusers lurking anywhere, be it a school, be it your family, be it home, be it work, anywhere, right? So we need to deal with that, correct? And as a school, I've mentioned the precautions we've tried to take, and I think awareness, like I said again and again, it's awareness, it's the comfort that you need to empower the child, like he said. You need to build that in a child. A 4-year-old child, a 3-year-old child will understand the difference, because we've personally done it and parents have spoken to children about it, and yes, they understand the difference. So if you actually see, children are very mature, you know, they understand a lot more than we expect them to, even at the age of 3. No, they do. So by the age of 3 or 4, you could talk to your child very comfortably about it. They would know the difference. and children will point out inappropriate behavior, and they are far more capable than we think. Of course, if we have every right to protect them, it's our duty. But you know, if we empower them and educate them and make them very comfortable about talking about anything without putting shame into the equation, they will report it back. 6 years old is very, very, you know, is a very mature age. Yes, a child of 6 years of age, but this was not a repeated assault. Normally, if it's a repeated assault, say by a family member or something like that, if it's reported immediately, it can be taken care of. Now, this was a one-time assault, which was definitely, you know, talked about the child to the parent, and then the parent spoke to the child helpline. So this is what we need to do, you know, this is the right approach so that it's a deterrent. This is the first deterrent, talking about it. Yeah, and the second is the punishment and the law system. I think it needs to be very, very strong and very, very stringent. So it's a major deterrent in the future. So, you know, the abusers out there should know, if I do something like this, it will be spoken about. Nobody is going to feel shy about it or embarrassed about it.
I think there should be a death penalty for such
yeah,
a
yeah, and then there should be a very strong
punishment. It's a personal
punishment.
view, not India Post Live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
The
a strong.
principal, for example, has a very huge role to play. I'm sure you will admit it. How is it that in this particular case, the incident took place on the 2nd of July? And how is it the case was registered only on the 14th? Is there an attempt by the school administration?
No, sir. In this case, because as the sequence of events was pointed out by the APSA person, that the parents only got to know about it. Often, perhaps a child also does not know how to talk about it or not to address it.
It's a very traumatic thing for a child to discuss with the parents. That's what I'm saying. That's why you need to have that rapport with your child.
But the principal must have come to know.
So, no, sir, until it's not reported, how will the principal come to know? I don't know how involved that school's principal was. How, you know, how do they do their surveillance? I mean, if it's live surveillance, you have somebody.
CCTV cameras everywhere.
They didn't already have those. I mean,
not apparently everywhere. But Bharti Ali is also Bharti Ali is also with us. She's the co-director at HUC, the Center for Child Rights. And Bharti, I mean, we've talked about this earlier, and it's just heartbreaking to have a child undergo such trauma, and it just keeps happening on, and we can't figure out why.
True, that's because we are this is a 7-year-old child, right?
Yes, 6-year-old, sorry.
6-year-old. So I don't know whether the child is in a formal school setup or still in a play school.
A formal school.
Sorry?
Formal school in class 1.
In class 1, okay. So, I mean, it's still a better situation. If it was a play school, it is worse because none of the play schools in this country are regulated under any law. They do not fall under any law whatsoever. But because this is a formal school, there should be some systems in place, which has been repeatedly voiced, and the schools have been negating those systems. We have not been able to get the schools to come forward and report such instances. You know, somehow, just as it is with families, that whole fear of, you know, getting a bad name also works with the schools. The schools do not want to come forward and report because of that. I think that needs to change. We really need to work hard. It's been a challenge. We haven't been able to really get over that. We need to encourage and maybe have some incentives. It's really sad that you need to give incentives for people to do the right things, but I guess you have to do it. You have to get the schools to, hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you will have to encourage principals to come forward and report. You'll have to encourage families to come forward and report. And, you know, you've been talking about, you know, how to get children to speak. We've got enough cases where children do tell and do inform. They have their own language. Many of us need to learn that language. To expect that a child would come forward and say, I've been raped, I think that's the biggest problem and the biggest mistake we make. They do not use such terms. And they do not express it in that manner. So we need to have more education. We need to have more discussions with parents, with teachers as to how to recognize this. And I would also say that, you know, punishment is not what deters anybody in the world. You may give life, you may give death. What really deters is the procedures. So if your procedures are strong, and if you're implementing those procedures, and the message going out to the perpetrator is that, listen, I can't get away, then that is going to work. At the moment, a child has to speak to 10 different authorities and narrate the same episode again and again and again. So, even parents don't want to resort to a legal process because they just feel it's further traumatizing my child, it's further traumatizing us. Why go that way? So we'll have to really work on these procedures, make them child-friendly, and give a very clear message to the perpetrator: you can't get away.
All right, there is no getting away, and we certainly won't. We'll at least talk about it and try to build pressure. Sorry, Rashmi, you had a statement to make very quickly, if you can.
Hello.
Rashmi, you had a statement to make. Go ahead, please.
I couldn't. Can I just brief it because I was not able to hear properly what Bharti was telling.
What Bharti was saying was that in terms of deterrence, what we need is a stronger process so that everybody knows that if you indulge in such a heinous act, you're not going to get away with that. So that was the basic crux of what you were saying.
See, that is one thing we have to do it because even after that Child Sexual Abuse Act and even all this SCPCR and NCPCR is in place, what all are doing it because NCPCR and SCPCR are supposed to do a lot of campaign, not only with the children, to society to protect the child rights because child rights protection is not only child's issue, it is actually the entire society's issue. So what this commission so far has done, we have to think about it. When they were not able to do anything beyond now monitoring and evaluating RTA status. And when it comes to the protection of child rights, all these commissions are only getting into do some kind of hearing and then calling people, that there actually ends. So then the deterrence we can have law, but people need to know that what is in the law. How many people know that even if sexual abuse law and domestic violence law and all these things, what are the penalties they are going to get it? That kind of awareness we have to have. Maybe entire society, including media, everybody has to advertise it and say that, if you do indulge in it, you are going to get this. And I think nobody deserves any kind of concession on these cases because violating a child's rights and in a very heinous way, actually they are spoiling and destroying the child completely, their entire life of one person. So then can also affect other child who is also in the same class, same school, and then in the same colony or wherever the child is coming from, same community. So one child, it's actually one person or one person's one momentum and action can destroy a lot of other children's aspirations and prosperity to go up. So I think, besides this act and law, and we all have to gear up and we all have to work on to campaign
Absolutely.
on what act talks about it, and then only the deterrence thing will come. Otherwise, it will be there. We can come up with the most penalizing kind of acts and the provisions in that, but society will go on what they are doing.
All right, so we really need to talk about this. But Subramaniam, final word to you.
See, I want to say that, if you're talking about the registration of the case and the arrest of the person and so on, unfortunately in Indian police, enforcement of social legislation is not a priority. Our Indian police functions on two categories. One is the main law, that is the IPC, CRPC, Evidence Act and everything. Other is the social legislations. There's a huge debate going on whether should we take up social legislation at all. And at one stage, the police commission debated the issue and they said, yes, we must enforce social legislation. But for social legislation, you need to sensitize the police. But the training of the police today is very, very brutal. They are not, they are transformed from human beings into brutes. That is what the law requires in terms of maintenance of order, in terms of punishment and so on. Therefore, we need a revolution in policing. And social legislation should be prioritized, not maintaining law and order, Evidence Act and so on. That should not be security of the state. We are so worried about security of the state. We are not worried about security of the people. And that's why the Indian police has such a bad name today, because they are not bothered about all these social legislation. They are only always serving the masters, political masters. And the political masters equally insensitive. They've just not thought seriously about how to bring social legislation into the priority area of policing in the country.
All right, and Diksha, last word to you. I would just want you to talk to, or perhaps tell, what should a parent do if something like this happens, and what would you advise them to do if anybody's listening and if you've been a victim or a child's a victim? We heard Diksha, and of course.
So I think it's very important to talk about it and even seek help if it's required. If a traumatic event has happened in a child's life, it's correct that don't broach upon it so much. The memory will fade away, but yet we have to deal with such issues. So rather than, keeping them in the closet and then, they reappear later on in your life from the subconscious and create issues, it's much better to deal with it, to talk about it, and get professional help. There are dedicated groups of professionals who work just for CSA. We got one to do a workshop in our school in January. So, there are social groups out there, there are helplines, just like we saw one. Please talk to them. There is extensive help available. You just have to reach out. So I think we should not roll it under the carpet. We must talk about it. There must be awareness about it. And like you're talking about, what one needs to do when such a thing happens. Because we've been speaking of prevention so far. And as schools and institutions, I think it's our responsibility to be absolutely sure to have procedures which prevent such a thing from occurring and infrastructure which prevents it from occurring. But okay, if something like this has happened, there is lots of help, and please seek out, and you will get that help. There are organizations out there. I don't know if I should be naming them.
Yeah, you can name them.
But you could,
Yeah,
actually.
like HUC, for example, the Center for Child Rights, of course, does a lot in this regard.
So you could, go out there and get help, and it's fine. It's something that can be dealt with, and you can very normally resume your life and never think about it again. Forget it like a nightmare. Eventually, that's how I think you should take it, in life. Forget it as a nightmare, deal with it. The perpetrator must be punished, and, just get help and move on with your life and forget it as a nightmare.
All right, on that note, we'll have to wrap up. But thank you very much, Reshmi, for coming in. Also, Diksha and Mr. Subramaniam, it was a pleasure to have you on this show. Well, it is indeed a sad day. What have we come to? Well, think about it, talk about it, talk about things happening inside your own home or your school or wherever you are. But just do talk. I mean, it's our children and they are our future. Thanks so much for watching.